What's up, guys? It's me, Anthony, and it's the time of the week again. It's Anthony's NFL Picks. Week 4. Heard me right. We are now in the 4th week of the NFL of the 2025-2026 NFL season, and this season is going by very quickly. This weekend had some pretty good games. However, my record was the same as week 2 at 10-6, which is still really good though, and my overall record now is 34-14, which is again the best start I've ever had. Better than last year. I don't remember my last year's record though, but it's better than that. But anyways, I'm all ready to get started with these games. But before we start, please like this video, subscribe, turn on the notification bell so to get updated on my newest content, and let's dive right in. And starting things off for Thursday Night Football, we have an NFC West matchup between the 2-1 Seahawks and the 2-1 Cardinals. Seahawks are here after beating the New Orleans Saints to living pieces, 44-13. Sam Darnold had a really good game, and now they're going on to Arizona against the Cardinals, who lost to the 49ers at the very last second, 16-15, last second kick by Eddie Pinheiro, former kicker of the Panthers. To be honest, it's in Arizona though. However, for the Cardinals, they have suffered something really bad. James Conner, their running back, is out for season-ending foot injury, which is a very, very bad thing for Arizona. And because of that, I'm going to go with Seattle. I think the Seahawks are a better team. I think they're going to beat Arizona. I know it's in Arizona though, but my gut's saying Seattle. Seahawks will beat the Cardinals 17-13. Seahawks will be 3-1. The Cardinals will be 2-2. We're moving on with the next game. And coming up at our next game, we got our first international game in Dublin, Ireland, between the 2-1 Vikings and the 2-1 Steelers. Both teams are coming back from wins. The Steelers, they're here after beating the Patriots 21-14, finally, after losing 2 straight from them, which is not good. And now they're in Dublin along with Minnesota, who completely stomped all over Cincinnati 48-13. Carson Wentz had a great game as the Vikings quarterback. But again, the Vikings have Justin Jefferson still, so they're not that much in trouble. But J.J. McCarthy will be coming back next Sunday, the 5th of October. I don't know if that's true or not. But a lot of people are saying the Vikings, but I might go with the Steelers because, I think Pittsburgh could do something big. But also, on the other hand, Minnesota's pretty good, I guess. But at the very end of the day, I'm going with the veteran Aaron Rodgers and the Steelers. I think the Steelers are a better team at the end of the day. I think they're going to beat Minnesota. Steelers will beat the Vikings 31-24. Steelers will be 3-1. The Vikings will be 2-2. We're moving on with the next games. And coming up at our next games, we got our 1 o'clock games for Sunday. Our next game is against my 2-1 Commanders taking on the 1-2 Falcons. Commanders, baby! We're here after defeating the Raiders with no Jaden Daniels, 41-24. Marcus Mariota played a really great game. However, Scary Terry is hurt, and Jaden Daniels and both him, Scary Terry, are questionable with injuries. I'm really hoping Jaden comes back this Sunday. We're in Atlanta against the Falcons, who got completely shut out by the Panthers, 30-0. Michael Penix threw for 2 interceptions. He looked awful on Sunday. And Kirk Cousins had to come in. I think he might get benched for Kirk Cousins. And if Kirk Cousins starts, he's taking on his former team in the Commanders, because he used to be the Commanders quarterback when I started watching football back in 7th grade when I was 11 years old. But to be honest, I'm praying that the Commanders win. I'm praying that Jaden comes back on Sunday and we beat the Falcons. Commanders will beat the Falcons 23-14. Commanders will be 3-1. The Falcons will be 1-3. We're moving on with our next game. Coming up at our next game, we got the undefeated 3-0 Chargers and the winless 0-3 New York Giants. Chargers are here after winning at the very last second, beating the Broncos 23-20. They almost blew that game against them on Sunday. It was back and forth. They were winning 3-0 in the second quarter. Then they came back and beat the Broncos because the Broncos, they're not that great. I think they had a very easy schedule last year. Same thing with my Commanders. But still, I think that they're going to win because the Giants, they're here after playing very sloppy against the Chiefs, losing on Sunday Night Football 22-9. And just now, a couple of hours before doing this recording, Russell Wilson got benched for Jackson Dart. So Jackson Dart is going to make his start this Sunday against the Chargers, which is amazing. So we're going to see how Jackson does against the Chargers. But if he plays good against the Chargers, I'm not saying they're going to win, but if he plays some good snaps of football these coming season because he's a rookie, I'd be impressed. So I'm going to go with the Chargers on this one. Chargers will beat the Giants 34-16. The Chargers will remain undefeated at 4-0. The Giants will drop to be 0-4. We're moving on to the next game. Coming up at our next game, we got an AFC South matchup, and it's a pretty bad matchup because they're both winless, the 0-3 Titans and the 0-3 Texans. Titans are here after losing to the Colts, getting blown out 41-20. Cam Ward threw an interception. However, that Titans team is really bad. They're rebuilding, and Brian Callahan, I think, will get fired either in the middle of the season or the end of the season because he's not that great of a coach, Brian Callahan. He is not good with Tennessee. The Titans are terrible. They should have just kept Mike Vrabel. None of this would have happened. However, they're going against the shockingly 0-3 Texans who lost to the Jaguars 17-10. CJ Stroud has been playing like trash lately. He is terrible. Terrible. They completely got blown out by Jacksonville. Not blown out, though, but CJ Stroud's been playing like trash lately, and that's not good. I thought he was a good quarterback, but now looking back, they have injuries too. Don't mention that. But next Sunday, Joe Mixon is coming back from an injury after he suffered in the offseason. But I still think the Texans need this win. They need to get they need to get back on track on this win. It's just a must for Houston. The Titans are rebuilding. The Texans definitely need this one. And it's in Houston, so I'm going to go with the Texans on this one. Texans will beat the Titans 24-10. The Texans will be 1-3. The Titans will be 0-4. We're moving on to the next game. And coming up at our next game, we got a really good game. The battle of the two undefeated teams. We got the 3-0 Philadelphia Eagles and the 3-0 Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Eagles are here after that sloppy win over the Rams, winning with that last-second blocked kick. No other than Jordan Travis. He completely won that game. They were down 26-7. I remember this because I was watching it in the car because I was coming back from my brother's house. We were watching the Raiders game because he's a Raiders fan. And they completely blew the game, the Rams. And I thought the Eagles were going to lose, and I thought I was wrong. But the Rams choked, so we're going to see what's going to happen for the Eagles. They're taking on the Buccaneers, who are also 3-0. They came back and they beat the Jets because the Jets jetted themselves 29-27. They got a blocked kick before they got the game-winning field goal, being up 26-20, then 27-26, and then 29-27, being the Jets. I'm thinking that the Eagles are going to win because Mike Evans is out for a few weeks with an injury, a hamstring injury, which is not good for Tampa Bay. However, the rookie Emeka Egbuka looks really good, and Chris Godwin may possibly return this Sunday. But either way, I'm going with Philadelphia. Philadelphia's a better team. I think they're going to win. The Eagles will defeat the Buccaneers. Close game, 29-27. Eagles will go on to be 4-0. The Buccaneers will drop to be 3-1. We're moving on with the next game. Coming up at our next game, we got the 1-2 Panthers and the 1-2 Patriots. Panthers, they're here after completely embarrassing the Falcons 30-0. Bryce Young looked really well on Sunday. He did very well. He has gotten a little bit better, even though he almost came back against the Cardinals week 2. He did very good against Atlanta last week because Atlanta's just garbage. But the Patriots, on the other hand, are here after losing to the Steelers, playing in a very close game. Drake May got out with a concussion. I don't know if he's going to be starting this game or Tommy Cutlets or Tommy DeVito may come in. Who knows? It's in New England, though, but I'm going to go with the Patriots on this one. I think the Patriots are a bit of a better team. The Panthers, they could show improvement, though. They're going to put up a fight. But at the very end of the day, I'm thinking that the Patriots are going to win. Patriots will defeat the Panthers 31-26. Patriots will be 2-2. The Panthers will be 1-3. We're moving on to the next game. Coming up at our next game, we got the 0-3 Saints and the undefeated 3-0 Bills. Saints are here after getting completely crushed by the Seahawks 44-13. Tyler Shaw had to go in. He started a little bit. Spencer Rattler, I don't know what he's going to do. He's trying the best. I think they're going to get Arch Manning in the draft, even if he, combines for the draft. I don't know if he's going to be declaring for the draft in 2026, though. But the Saints, they're in a rebuild phase. This is very hard, though. But Alvin Kamara is still really good, though. Don't get me wrong. They still got, Chris Olave. They still got some good players, though. But I think at the very long run, I think the Saints need a quarterback. They're going on to Buffalo against the Bills, who completely destroyed Miami. 31-21 on Thursday Night Football because the Dolphins are just the Dolphins. They're so bad. And we'll get to those games later. But I'm going to go with Buffalo. I think Buffalo will completely crush the Saints, to be honest. The Bills are so good. Josh Allen looks really well, and he's living up to that MVP thing he won last year. So I'm going to go Buffalo. Bills will defeat the Saints 33-13. Bills will remain undefeated at 4-0. The Saints will still be remaining winless at 0-4. We're moving on with the next game. Coming up at our next game, we got the 1-2 Browns and the 2-1 Lions. Browns are here, and both teams are coming back from wins. The Browns are here after surprisingly beating the Packers 13-10 at the very last second. The Packers were winning 10-0 in the third quarter going into the fourth. The Browns scored 13 unanswered points and beat the Packers, which is very funny. That's shocking. The Packers looked like a Super Bowl contender a couple weeks ago, and then they lost to the Browns. That's shocking. And Joe Flacco, a lot of people saying he's old. They should start Shador or Dylan Gabriel. Who knows? But they're going on to Detroit against the Lions, who beat the Ravens yesterday night, winning 38-30. So I think the Lions are going to get back on track and win over the Browns because the Lions are a better team. David Montgomery had a great game. Jahmyr Gibbs had a great game. Those two running backs for the Lions are really good, and I think they're going to go far. So I'm going to go with Detroit on this one. Lions will defeat the Browns 30-19. Lions will be 3-1. The Browns drop to 1-3. We're moving on to the next games. And here are our 4 p.m. games. And our first game, we got the 2-1 Jaguars and the 3-0 Niners. Jaguars are here after beating the Texans 17-10. They look really well, Jacksonville. They're getting better. They're rebuilding. Liam Cohen's is starting to, show some promising. Trevor Lawrence, they're, showing a bit of an improvement. But they're going on to San Francisco against the Niners, which I had a very hard time making this, my predictions today because the games are so close. The Niners are still undefeated. They're 3-0. However, Nick Bosa tore his ACL on Sunday against the Cardinals, so he's out for the whole season. However, there's a possibility that Brock Purdy might come back to this game on Sunday. He may return finally. Juan Jennings may return. George Kittle's returning probably on the 12th of October. And on next Thursday, because the Niners play Thursday Night Football, Brandon Ayuk comes back finally after losing against Kansas City. And last season, touring, hurting himself for the whole season. But to be honest, I'm going to go with the 49ers, though, but it's going to be a very close game. 49ers will defeat the Jaguars 25-23. The 49ers will go on to be 4-0. The Jaguars, they drop on to be 2-2, which is improvement, but we're moving on with our next game. And coming up at our next game, we got a good game. We got the surprisingly, shockingly 3-0 Indianapolis Colts taking on the 2-1 Rams. Colts are here after completely torching the Titans 41-20. Daniel Jones looks like a really good quarterback now because he's in a very good system. He's doing very well for himself, and I'm proud of it. They're going on against the Rams, who completely blew that game against the Eagles 33-26. The Rams are playing back at home, and it's going to be a really good game, though. But if I had to choose, I'm going with the Rams on this one. The Colts, they're a really good team now, but I'm going to go with the Rams, I think. The Rams are a better team. They need to get back on track. Puka Nacua is still really good. There's Jonathan Taylor on the Colts and Michael Pittman, the rookie Tyler Warren, the tight end. Daniel Jones is really succeeding, so I'm going to go with the Rams on this one either way, but it's going to be a good game. Rams will defeat the Colts 28-21. Rams will go on to be 3-1. The Colts will also be 3-1. We're moving on with the next game. Coming up at our next game, we got a battle between the 1-2 Bears and the 1-2 Raiders. Bears are here after completely destroying Dallas on Sunday 31-14. Caleb Williams looks really good right now. He looks so much better. Maybe they finally got where they were going, but now they're going to Las Vegas now, Nevada, against the Raiders, who beat the Commanders. Not beat the Commanders. They lost to my Commanders. And, however, Michael Mayer, their tight end, got hurt with a concussion that game against Washington. So he may be playing Sunday, though, but the Raiders lost. And Geno Smith, they're kind of disappointing this season, the Raiders. The Raiders always fail to disappoint their fans, and it showed. Geno Smith is kind of getting old. They need to get a quarterback. You should put Nathan O'Connell, but who knows? I'm going to go with the Raiders on this one because I think the Raiders are a better team, and they're at home. So I think it's going to be a close game, though. But my gut is saying the Raiders. Raiders will defeat the Bears 26-20. Raiders will be 2-2. The Bears will be 1-3. We're moving on to the next game. Coming up at our next game, we got a pretty good game. We got a battle between the 1-2 Ravens and the 1-2 Chiefs. Ravens are here after losing against the Lions on Monday night yesterday, 38-30. Lamar Jackson does not look that great. He cannot perform underneath big games, and it showed. And, Sunday Night Football, I should have listened to that because they blew that game against Buffalo Sunday night. However, they beat the Browns because the Browns are terrible. But they lost to the Lions on Monday night, so that tells me that Lamar Jackson cannot perform underneath, the spotlight, which matters. That's why they don't go to the Super Bowl that much. And that's why they don't go to the Super Bowl. That's why they choke in the playoffs. Now they're taking on the Chiefs, who beat the Giants in that ugly win for them, 22-9. Kelce looks really washed up. Travis Kelce, I think, is going to retire after this season. He's just old. He's just washed up. I think they're going to be done, but I think Kansas City will win because the Ravens just cannot perform anymore. They always find a way to choke, and that's an issue. So you know what? Kansas City needs to win this one to get back on their tracks. Chiefs will beat the Ravens 20-13. Chiefs will be 2-2. The Ravens drop to be 1-3. We're moving on with the next game. And coming up next for Sunday Night Football, we got the 2-1 Packers and the 1-2 Cowboys. Packers revenge game for Micah Parsons, who was traded from the Cowboys to the Packers in August before the season began, and now he's going on against his former team in the Cowboys at AT&T Stadium, which is crazy. And the Packers are here after playing completely awful, looking like pathetic against the Browns, losing to them 13-10. They blew that game at the last second. I thought they were going to win against Cleveland. However, they're going to be back on track over this win. The Cowboys are really bad, and it shows without Micah Parsons. They can't stop the run anymore. The Cowboys did really bad against Chicago, and because of that, I think Green Bay will crush them. Micah Parsons will get his revenge, and the Cowboys will still live on as delusional as ever. Packers will defeat the Cowboys 23-6. Packers will go on to be 3-1. Cowboys will be 1-3. We're moving on with the next games. And now for our Monday night games. This game should be on Comedy Central for Monday Night Football. Our first one, it's an AFC East matchup between the 0-3 Jets and the 0-3 Dolphins. This should be put on Comedy Central, to be honest. Nobody wants to watch that on Monday night. Both teams are winless. Both of them are just garbage. The Jets are here after jetting themselves against the Buccaneers. The Jets are getting better, though, in situations, though. However, they're taking on the Dolphins in Miami, and the Dolphins are here after playing awful against the Bills on Thursday Night Football. Tua is not a good quarterback anymore. I think they're going to just be rebuilding. I think Mike McDaniel will get fired. Chris Greer, their GM, who has been there for too long, is going to get fired. I think the Jets are going to finally come back and beat the Dolphins, finally. The Jets need to get their first win underneath their new coach of Aaron Glenn, so I'm going to go with them. Jets will defeat the Dolphins 20-9. The Jets will be 1-3. The Dolphins will be 0-4. And last but not least, for a Monday Night Football game, we got a good game. We got an okay game. We got the 2-1 Bengals and the 1-2 Broncos. Both teams are coming from losses. The Bengals are here after completely getting annihilated by the Vikings, 48-13. And Jake Browning threw for 2 interceptions. He has been awful ever since Burrow got hurt. Burrow really needs to return really soon, which is not good. And because of that, I'm going to have to go with the Broncos. And the Broncos are here after they choked against the Chargers. They're 1-2. Bo Nix needs to improve a little bit because this cannot happen. And because of that, I might have to go with the Broncos on this one. Broncos will defeat the Bengals 27-7. Broncos will go on to be 2-2. The Bengals will be 2-2 as well. And that is it for this week, everybody. These are all my NFL picks for week 4. Tune in next week for Anthony's NFL picks week 5, which will be premiering next Tuesday, September 30th. This is Anthony signing off, and have a great week.